What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the shop. My name's Preston, and I'm super excited about this week's video. We're gonna take a few minutes to give you a bit of a tour of the shop, show you the space, show you some of the tools and equipment that we use around here, and we're gonna introduce you to some of the projects we have on the go as well. So stay tuned. If you dig cool tools, custom cars, this is gonna be the video for you. Thanks for checking out our channel, and welcome to Lakeview Fab. All right, guys, to get this tour started, we're gonna head out the man door. I'm gonna turn this camera around and I'm gonna show you the outside of the shop, as well as introduce you to a couple of our shop trucks and one of the projects that we have sitting out there as well. So I'm gonna head out this man door and I'll see you guys outside. All right, guys, here's the view as you roll up to the front of Lakeview Fabrication. It's an absolutely beautiful day here in BC. It's still February, we've got a little bit of snow on the ground, but spring is in the air, and with spring comes cruising season. Really excited to get both of these trucks back out on the road. The one closest to us, this is our daily driver. It's a 2010 GMC Sierra. We lowered this truck 5 inches in the front, 7 inches in the back on a Beltec kit, which is perfect for cruising around here. Sitting to the right of that, we have our 97 Chevy Silverado. This truck's airbagged on 20-inch wheels. Everything's controlled by AccuAir. This truck is still a bit of a work in progress. I have a 5.3 liter LS waiting to go in it, as well as all new front suspension to bring the front end down a little bit lower. We're also going to tub the truck just to get the frame laying flat on the ground. Sitting to the right of that, this is our 1963 Lincoln Continental parts car. We've been using this car to help us restore the 1962 Lincoln that we have inside the shop. Both the 62 and 63 came from Mike Hall's Field of Dreams, as seen on the television show Rust Valley Restorers. Mike's a really good friend of the shop, gave us a killer deal on these cars, and we're really looking forward to restoring them. Behind the cars are the bay doors. We're gonna head inside now, and I'm gonna show you the rest of the shop. Guys, now that we're heading back inside, I'm gonna start this tour by taking you upstairs. I'm gonna show you our office, our 3D printers, nice overview of the shop. From there, we'll head back downstairs and give you a really in-depth look at some of our equipment and the projects that we have on the go. So I'm gonna turn this camera back around, give you the best view we can, and I'm gonna show you a little bit of our office and some of our 3D printing capabilities. From the top of the stairs, I can give you a quick bird's eye view of the shop before turning and heading into the office. This is where we do all of our design and 3D printing work. On the left, you'll notice our Creality Ender 3 3D printer. This is a great entry-level machine for anyone looking to get into the hobby. You can pick these up for just a couple $100 and they print amazing right out of the box. To the right of that, this is our MakerBot Replicator 2. I use this machine for all of our custom tooling here. Any of our 3D printed dimple dies, 3D printed bead roller dies, all of that comes off of this machine here because it prints so fast. It's very limited in what it can print because it doesn't have a heated bed. So for any of our more exotic materials, I'll use the machine here to the right. This is our FlashForge Guider 2. It has a huge build area. It's fully enclosed with a heated bed and an upgraded hot end so it can print exotic materials. This is the machine I use for all of our car parts, any of our fuel line bracketry, any of our custom clips, anything that needs to be UV resistant and extra strong gets printed on this machine. Hiding behind the 3D printers, I've got some custom artwork by a guy named Nick Crouch, as well as my Chevy Trucks Hot Wheel collection. I've been collecting these for a number of years now. Here's a good example of a 3D printed piece. Supercharger here for my wife's Nissan Xterra. And from there, we can take a look out over the shop, down to the main bays, where we will continue our tour. All right, guys, we're back downstairs in the main hoist area. Just gonna take a couple of seconds and show you these hoists. This is a Benpack 10,000 pound 2-post hoist. This was the first piece of equipment we bought for the new shop, knowing that we'd have to safely lift cars like this Lincoln Continental. To the left of that, we have a smaller 2,500 pound mid-rise scissor lift. This would be a great lift for guys that don't have the overhead height that a 2-post hoist requires. It sits on the ground, it's mobile, you can move it around. It plugs into 110, so you don't need any special power requirements, and it'll lift that Model A up to about chest height to make it nice and easy to work on. If you're doing things like oil changes, brake jobs, lots of tire rotations, I would recommend looking into a mid-rise scissor lift like this. It just keeps things so much safer and works really well. Being able to use these hoists and get these cars up to a proper work height just makes life so much easier for me. Keeps my back safe. It allows me to do the work faster and more efficiently, and that saves my customers money. We have these 4 stands as well, just for properly supporting any cars that may be on the hoist. Safety is a huge priority for me here at the shop. We like to keep it nice and clean so there's no tripping hazards, keep everything nice and organized so we're not wasting time looking for parts, and making sure we do everything that we can, including hoists and support stands, just to keep these cars safe when they're off the ground. That's about it for the hoist bay. As I turn around, you'll get a good view of our racking system along the left side of the shop, as well as our main fab and CNC area. We're going to dive into those parts here next. As we head over to the right-hand side of the shop, you're going to see one of my favorite pieces of equipment. This is our Langmuir Systems Crossfire Pro. This is a 4-foot by 3-foot CNC plasma table. We've used this machine for cutting all kinds of material, from thin stainless all the way up to thick copper, mild steel, aluminum, and anything else that we can think of. A couple of modifications we've added. We put this machine torch here on it just to help increase our cut capability. We also added some casters to the bottom of the table to be able to roll it around anywhere we need it in the shop, tuck it out of the way if it's not being used, or get it out by the bay door if we're cutting something especially nasty and need some extra ventilation. If you're in the market for a small CNC plasma table, I would definitely recommend looking at Langmuir Systems. They also offer a 2x2 table as well as a 4x8 table. Over here behind the CNC plasma, we have a nice little admin area. This is a great spot at the end of the day to sit down and enter the hours for a build, order parts, update project logs, and have a hot coffee or a nice cold drink. Conveniently next to that is our washroom here in the shop, as well as our first aid and fresh water. We also have a cabinet with some Lincoln inspiration, as well as some examples of our 3D printing capabilities and our CNC plasma capabilities. Next to that is our compressor room. We have a large Sanborn air compressor in the back that feeds our copper dryer. From there to a manifold that feeds the entire shop with air, as well as this hose reel, which goes to our CNC plasma table. That's about it for this side of the shop, so I'm going to head over and show you the main fabrication bay next. Over here on the left side of the shop, as we come into the fab area, you'll see our custom chassis table. We built this table to be able to manufacture the chassis for the Model A. It has 1/4-inch plates on the top with a matching hole pattern to our weld table so that all of our fixturing tools and all of our jigs are able to transfer from one table to the other. Currently, this table is 11 feet long and 4 feet wide. We do have some special plates that are 6 feet wide to accommodate any axles that we're securing to the table. Also, we made the entire top piece out of receiver tubing so that we can slide the table out at both ends for 4 additional feet. We also have threaded holes here and here to be able to attach extra plates which are currently resting underneath the table. We did have some accessories cut for the table. These help hold our axles in place when we're mocking up a chassis, keeps everything nice and square. Really proud of how this table turned out. For doing custom chassis, it's been a lifesaver, but it's also been amazing for things like handrails, anything where you need a long, straight manufacturing surface. So as we make our way down the right-hand side of the fab area, the first thing you're going to see is our new stand-up press. This was built by a local fabricator who recently packed up and moved across the country. We got this unit at an absolute steal. It did, however, need a new pump. The original pump was fried. And since I was replacing that anyway, I 3D printed this nice little knob for relieving the pressure on the pump. Another modification we added was this foot pedal, so we weren't using the hand controls. Keeps things nice and hands-free when you're trying to maneuver a large piece of material in the brake, or if you're dimple dyeing or pressing a larger piece of material. Really excited to have this here in the shop. It's really increased our bending capability. We can do much thicker material now. Little brackets and bits and pieces that come off the plasma table are a lot easier to bend. Still have one modification left to do, and we're going to turn this upper die into a finger brake. So we're going to make a holder for this top die. We're going to cut this into pieces so we can remove individual pieces as need be to bend smaller pieces. Really looking forward to getting that done. It'll really increase the capability of this machine again. Sitting next to that is our Slugger chop saw. This is a cold cut saw, really good for chopping material down quickly and accurately. You'll see it's not a standard abrasive. It's got carbide teeth on there for cutting through steel. Does a great job of cutting down material quickly and accurately. Next to that is our finger brake. This is a KMS model. It's good for up to 1/8 inch aluminum. We use this all the time for bending sheet metal in various pieces. Took 5 guys to drag this out of an old basement. We found it on Marketplace. But we got it here. We got it in the shop without breaking anybody's back too badly. Next to that is our large set of slip rolls. These have a 50-inch capacity. We got these from the same gentleman that we bought the stand-up press from. So back here is my favorite corner of the shop. This is where I do the majority of my work. That pallet racking in the back was my very first workbench at my last shop. We only had 18 by 18 square feet. So with that workbench and the toolbox and this welding table, we were basically out of room. Had a local water jet shop cut the top for the table for us. He also did our chassis tabletops. A good friend of mine came and wired up the boxes. I built the base and the grinder holder. Safety being very important here. All of these grinders have handles. All of these grinders have guards. I had a pretty bad accident with a grinder when I was a young kid. Almost lost my right thumb. So ever since then, safety has been a #1 priority for us. All of the drawers on the toolboxes are labeled. All of my most used tools are easily accessible, including my DeWalt cordless kit. I have all of my layout stuff out here. All of my grinding discs. My DeWalt cordless kit. We 3D printed all these battery mounts as well as the bit holder in the center just to keep things nice and organized. These are the tools I use every day. I find myself grabbing that grinder and drill almost nonstop. A lot of layout tools, some more sheet metal tools. We got the shear over here, our radius gauge tucked in the background. Nice new sandbag for beating sheet metal on. As we get into the corner, it's our stand-up drill press. We bought this from a local gunsmith here in town who was selling it. I was again in a really small 18 by 18. I didn't have a lot of room for stuff like this, but we made it work. We crammed it into a corner. And once we got the new shop, we found a really nice home for it over here. Beside that is our bolt bins. This is where we keep and sort all of our hardware. We have a couple of tool carts underneath that for rolling around. Another small press tucked away in there if we're doing bushings, ball joints, and we just need something smaller and hand controlled. That brings us here to our Miller Multimatic. This welder has been amazing. I've been a welder for 18 years now. This was the very first welding machine I ever bought. It does MIG, it does TIG, it does stick. It's AC and DC, so you can weld aluminum with it. You can weld mild steel or stainless. It has dual gas inputs. You don't need to switch between bottles. As a matter of fact, if you're running the TIG setup, and you want to switch over to MIG, you don't even have to touch a button on the machine. You just pick up the MIG torch, squeeze the trigger, and you're ready to go. I highly recommend this machine for anyone looking to kind of do everything in a small package. It's sitting on a custom cart from ZT Fab. They were awesome to deal with. They sent me this cart. We've also got another little Miller tucked away down there. It's our little portable stick box, as well as a Hypertherm 35XP hand plasma cutter. Sitting next to the welding setup, this is my grandfather's toolbox. This is another really important piece for us to have here in the shop. My grandfather was an aircraft mechanic for his whole life. He worked for the Canadian Air Force. as well as Air Canada, CP Air, Canadian Airlines. Having this piece here just to see and remind me of him every day. I couldn't be more grateful for the inspiration that he was in being neat and tidy and organized. He taught me how to run a clean shop, and that's something that I'll always remember. Being able to use this every day just puts a smile on my face. I come down here, I open this box, I think of my grandfather, and it really helps inspire me. A lot of the tools in the shop here came from gentlemen that are no longer with us. As we're getting into the sheet metal tools, I actually picked up this English wheel as well as this plenishing hammer from a family of a gentleman local that passed away. They were looking for it to go to a good home. I was so thankful for the opportunity to bring it here, and every time I use any one of these pieces of equipment, I like to think of the previous owners and how happy they would be seeing that their equipment's being used to build some really cool stuff. A couple of these bits I bought new, like the shrinker stretcher's new. And this hammer over here, this was a custom piece built by Sosa Metalworks down in Las Vegas. Cool story behind that piece is I actually flew down to Vegas for a metal shaping course that he was offering. Really fell in love with the hammer. Couldn't buy one at the time. I was living in a 700 square foot condo, but really just enjoyed the experience. And then when I found myself in an area where I had a shop, a good friend of mine was actually selling this unit. So I picked it up off of him, and I'm really excited to have this in the shop. Before we leave the fab area, there's a couple other tools I'd love to go over real quick. This one here is one of my favorites. This is over 100 years old. It's a 140-pound hay button anvil. This was given to me by my friend Jeff at Canadian Hot Rods. And the base was carved by my best friend Sean out of a solid chunk of willow. He even routed the base of the anvil right into the top for me so we could set it in there and secure it tightly. I absolutely love this piece. I can only imagine how many men have hammered steel over this piece in the last 100 years. So having it as a part of our shop is incredibly special. Also from the gentleman that passed away, and I got his English wheel and plenishing hammer. This was his bead roller. This was just a basic Harbor Freight Princess Auto type of bead roller. I pulled off the hand crank and I added this amazing Eastwood motor kit. It's directional, speed controlled. I also added the mounts to be able to bolt this to the table. And we strengthened up the back in here to prevent this top arm from flexing when you run heavy duty steel through it. You've seen this in other videos. It works fantastically. We've been using this to do all the floor pans for the Model A project. And hiding in here behind it is another very important piece to me, is my grandfather's vise. Having a vise is important in any metal shop. But for it to be my grandfather's and to have the story that it does, I'm just so excited to have it here on the corner of my table. I use this piece every day. I get to think of my grandfather every day. We'll head back out towards the bays. It's starting to get dark here now. I don't want to forget to introduce you to our project. So right here, I'll give you a nice good look at our 1962 Lincoln Continental. Hiding behind that's our steel rack. This is where we keep all of our sheet steel for the plasma, as well as our tube steel on the back. Above that is a wedge clamp chassis measuring system. We use this just to ensure that our chassis are square, that our bodies are symmetrical and square. If you haven't used one of these, I highly recommend looking into them. Especially if you're cutting up car bodies, you want to make sure everything goes back to where it came from, nice and square and straight. This tool will help you do that. I'm just going to cycle back around to the bays, give you a quick look at the two projects we have on the go, and then we're going to wrap this video up. So this one here is a 1931 Ford Model A Tudor, as we mentioned. We built everything in this car from scratch. The chassis is all from scratch, all the front suspension, rear suspension. We're just working on the interior right now. All custom sheet metal. We built the bomber seats and everything right here in-house. Give you a good shot of those. On the hoist next door is our personal 62 Lincoln Continental. This car is airbagged, sits on 22-inch custom wheels that are not currently on the car. Stay tuned for a future video. I'll show you this thing with the wheels on it, on the ground. These are the front airbags, shock relocators. If we go around the back, we'll show you the 4-link kit that's inside it. You see the airbags and the 4-link. Really excited to be restoring this car. We're currently just trying to find all the trim, make sure all the bits and pieces are here, because not only do we have this car, we have the parts car outside and a third car worth of parts that we're also trying to sort through, make sure we can get everything together to build one really beautiful car. Another quick shot of the Model A. And that's it. You've now seen the entire shop. All right, guys, well, that about wraps it up for this week's video. Thanks for taking the time to come check out the shop. I really hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. I'm so proud of this space. This has been my dream my whole life, so to be able to share it with you guys has been absolutely amazing. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you want to see our future videos on the Lincoln and the Rat Rod, click those notifications. We're going to be doing those in the near future to show you a little bit more about those projects and any other projects that we have come through the shop in the meantime. So thanks again for checking out Lakeview Fab, and we'll see you again here next week.